What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing wonderful today. We are going to cover Resto Shaman. We've looked at the class tree in depth in my previous video. We're going to look at Resto Shaman today, and then I will cover Elemental and Enhance. The bulk of the changes that just came through for Shaman in terms of like the Shaman rework happened to Ellie Shaman and Resto Shaman. Enhance basically got not nothing, but they got very little in the way of those changes. So we're going to look at Resto today in this video, and then we're going to look at Ellie and Enhance in other videos as well. I do want to also just say really quickly, I am streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/ZukoVibes, and I'm going to be covering all the new Shaman stuff today and tomorrow and the next couple of days. We're going to do dungeons with them. We're going to be trying to figure out what builds we can do as Ellie and Enhance now, all that stuff. So if you want to see it, come check out the stream. The link is down below in the description. Okay. What happened to Resto Shaman? Well, number one, we got a lot of talent kind of pruning. So a lot of talents that were 2-point nodes became 1-point nodes, like Ancestral Vigor, for example, is a 1-point node now. We lost things like Flash Flood, which I think were largely useless talents anyway. A lot of talents got shuffled around. We got a big bonus to Spirit Link Totem now. There's a lot of things that happen here. So let's go through each of the talents, and I'll talk about kind of what's going on. As I said, Ancestral Vigor is now 10% max HP for 10 seconds for only 1 talent point. This is a straight buff to this talent. It's really strong now, and it's something that I was probably only ever taking one of anyway, but it was just really, really good. Healing Rain did move up a little bit where Deluge was, which doesn't really matter. I think you're always going to take these two anyway. I think they really want you to feel like Healing Rain is a button that you need to take in every single build, so I guess they moved it up here, which is fine. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes these positioning things are a little bit weird, but I think they just did that to ensure that you have to take Healing Rain on every build. Down here, we have a White Water. Your critical heals have 215% effectiveness instead of the usual 200%. That's a tier set bonus from Dragonflight. Tier set bonus there. So they've also added another tier set bonus down on the bottom here called Tide Waters. When you cast Healing Rain, each ally with your Riptide on them is healed for 137,000. So 2 tier set bonus pieces coming into the War Within as talents, and they're revolving. This one revolves around Healing Rain. Of course, this one is just a flat extra healing bonus. I think Whitewater gets a lot better as the expansion scales into the later parts because your critical strike chance goes way up, and then you have a higher chance to crit, and you're going to be getting more benefit out of this, which is good. Overflowing Shores is still here. So when you drop your Healing Rain, or in this case Surging Totem, it's going to instantly heal 5 allies for a certain amount, which is fine. This is probably good in raid. I don't think it really matters for Mythic Plus, but maybe in a raid scenario it's actually good. Again, these are 2 instant heals that you're getting when you drop Healing Rain. So it's like you set up a bunch of Riptides, Riptide. Let's say you're playing Farseer, you get a whole bunch of Riptides out and a Primordial Wave maybe, and then you drop a Healing Rain. That Healing Rain is going to heal everybody with Overflowing Shores and heal everybody with Riptide on them. So again, as I said at the beginning, Blizzard is really emphasizing the importance of Healing Rain. So if you like that, if you don't like that, take it with a grain of salt, but that's kind of what's happening here on this side of things, which is totally cool. They separated talents like High Tide and Primal Tidal Core, so you can take one or both now, which is kind of cool. I think that's actually pretty good. I don't mind that design decision at all. There's a massive buff to Spirit Link Totem. So Spirit Link Totem gives you 10% damage reduction by itself, and then if you take Spouting Spirits, it gives you an extra 5%, and it heals everybody who's in the Spirit Link 1 second after you drop it. So this was an old conduit from Shadowlands, actually, and they're bringing it back, and it's very, very strong, which is awesome. This is a great talent to take in Mythic Plus and Raid. It has a really, really big effect on your allies. So wonderful talent, and a 15% damage reduction for Resto Shaman brings it almost in line with all the other major damage reductions. Oh my god, this is the guy on the boat. Sorry, this is the guy in the boat right there. So like if you running a Power Word Barrier, for example, is a 20% DR. Aura Mastery from Paladin is a 12% DR. So we're kind of slotted in between those two now in a really, really good spot. So I like that a lot. This makes Resto Shaman a lot more competitive in a raid scenario for sure. Okay, let's get to some changes that happened with some of the talents that we used to have. Water Totem Mastery, consuming tidal waves has a chance to reduce the cooldown of Healing Stream, Cloud Burst, Healing Tide, Mana Tide, and Poison Cleanse by 3 seconds. So on live right now, Water Totem Mastery is a guaranteed proc when you consume tidal waves, but it only reduces everything by 0.5 seconds. So now it's chance based, but it's 3 seconds. So I don't really like the design of this better than how it used to be, because anytime you're talking about like random procs or random chance things for healers, it's generally not a great idea, because they need reliable procs, reliable healing to go through when they want it to go through. So I don't really like this. I mean, the exception to this rule, of course, is deeply rooted elements, but you're not relying on deeply rooted elements all the time to heal people like you are kind of relying on Water Totem Mastery to reduce the cooldown of your totem. So I like that it's 3 seconds. I don't like that it is a chance now. So we'll have to wait and see. Living Stream got changed. Healing Stream Totem now heals for 100% more, and then it decays over duration. So the right now, the iteration of Healing Stream Totem is that it starts out at its normal healing and it ramps up over time. Now they've got it where it starts out really, really ramped up and it decays over time. So this is a straight buff, in my opinion, to how this talent functions, because think about it mentally. When you're dropping a Healing Stream Totem, you're not just doing it hoping that like the damage is going to be coming in 10 seconds later when your Healing Stream Totem starts to ramp up. You're dropping a Healing Stream Totem now because somebody needs healing now. So the fact that it starts at a double heal right away and then it slowly decays is a much, much better design for how you typically use Healing Stream Totem. You drop it when the damage is there. You don't drop it when when nothing is happening, and then 15 seconds later the damage comes in. So really love this design choice from Blizzard. I think this is a great way for them to change this talent. Master the Elements is now different. Casting Lava Burst increases the healing of your next Healing Surge, stacking twice. Healing Surge now applies Flame Shock to a nearby enemy. This actually was pretty good, and it was interesting to see that Blizzard has created a bunch of talents or modified talents to focus on Healing Surge now, which is interesting given the fact that they haven't given us any additional like mana regeneration. Like practically speaking, there's no additional mana regeneration that we have. So I don't know how I think about this. This is actually, the adding flame shocks to enemies was really cool. I noticed that a little bit once I was playing around with it. So that's really cool. But this whole focus on Healing Surge, for example, Mana Tide Totem gives you mana back. And then the new Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem says, after using Mana Tide Totem, the cast time of your next 3 Healing Surges is reduced by 100%. And their mana cost is reduced by 50%. So that really completely guts Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem for me. I used it for Chain Heal because it used to reduce the cast time and cost of Chain Heal, among other spells. But it was just like, you drop Mana Tide and you go Chain Heal, Chain Heal, Chain Heal, Chain Heal, Chain Heal. And you just like full heal everybody. And it doesn't cost you any mana, basically. So this is kind of completely wrecked for me. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why they changed this. I guess they feel like our AoE healing is good enough. So we'll have to wait and see. But there's a little bit of an emphasis here on Healing Surge. And I don't think it's that great because we don't have any additional mana regeneration. So that part's confusing me. Speaking of mana regeneration, you do have 9 charges of Water Shield now. This doesn't matter unless you're in PvP. Because in PvE, this just gives you mana, but it gives you extra mana if you get meleeed. But in order to like get that mana, you must get hit. So you're gonna like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna put myself in danger in order to try and get hit in order to proc Water Shield. So there's a new talent here that interacts with this, and I'll talk about this right now. Refreshing Earth Shield heals the target for 46,000 for each stack of Earth Shield they're missing. This is actually good. I like this a lot. It's really good, and it can add up to a decent amount of healing. Refreshing Water Shield, you are refunded for 5,000 mana for each stack of Water Shield missing. That sounds cool, except that it doesn't. You're never losing Water Shield. That's not something that happens because you're not getting meleeed because you're standing out in range, and that's the only way to get your Water Shields to like proc. So they haven't added in. They have not added in an additional way for you to proc Water Shield outside of getting meleeed, which means this reactive warding doesn't make any sense to me at all. Also, the mana isn't even that good. If I get down to 1 mana shield charge and I refresh them, I refresh 8 mana shield charges, that's 8 times 5 is 40,000 mana. I'm only going to get 40,000 mana. That's one Riptide. You're telling me like I'm going to spend 30, 40 seconds potentially losing all these water shield charges, and then I refresh it, I get 40,000 mana, which gives me one Riptide? That's garbage, right? So I don't really understand this talent, I'm not going to lie. This guy's about to yell again, just so you know, get ready. I don't know. This doesn't really make sense to me. The Earth Shield part of it is good. That part's actually good. So, well, I don't know. We'll see.
Adventurers,
there he goes.
We shall depart for the Dragon Isles shortly.
Healing Tide Totem with current control can have its cooldown reduced by 45 seconds, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Please, Blizzard, just make this a minute. I don't know why we're doing 45 seconds. Like, the only conceivable thought I can think is that because Water Totem Mastery gives you 3 seconds off the cooldown of Healing Tide Totem, among other things, that they don't want to make this they don't want this to get out of control, I guess. So there's a potential here where Water Totem Mastery plus current control can really bring down the cooldown of Healing Tide Totem and make it, instead of it being like a 3-minute cooldown, it could be like a 1.5-minute cooldown or something, I guess. But ultimately 45 seconds off the cooldown is just really weird. Like, what if I don't, I don't know. I just want it to be a minute. Please just make it a minute. This isn't making sense to me. Undercurrent is back. It's currently not giving us any benefit. I don't really know. I don't like this talent at all. Please, Blizzard, remove this talent. It's good in raid. I understand why it's good. It's just boring. It's really boring to have in the bottom section of this tree. I get it. It's powerful. You get like, you know, you could have potentially 6, 8, 10% more healing, maybe more, depending how many Riptides you're able to spread. With Farseer would be really good as well. But it's a boring design. Please, Blizzard, just change it. Okay. Ascendance has 2 nodes here. 60 seconds off the cooldown, or a really big haste buff and duration increase. From what I could see with Preeminence, when I procced Deeply Rooted, if I had Preeminence, it was adding a little bit more to the duration. I felt like it was longer than 6 seconds, but I couldn't quite tell because it didn't happen that often. So I don't know, but you also get to take Ascendance and Deeply Rooted, as you always have as a Resto Shaman, which means you can have a 2-minute Ascendance, or you can have a super juiced Ascendance that goes for 18 seconds instead of 15, but it's a 3-minute cooldown. So it's your choice. I think on certain fights, this is going to matter, right? Certain raid fights, you're going to want a 2-minute profile. On other raid fights, you're not going to care. You're only going to get to cast Ascendance like once or maybe twice total. So you can go for the haste. So I like this though. This is a really, really good choice note here. Very, very good. Okay. Excuse me. Downpour. Downpour has changed. It is now a proc off of your healing rain. So if I drop my totem here, which is going to cast Healing Rain, you're going to watch my totem button will get replaced with Downpour. Now I have 6 seconds to cast Downpour, which is not a lot of time. And if I cast it, it only heals everybody inside the Healing Rain. Okay. Now it is a giant heal. It's one of the best AoE heals that you have, actually, but it also gives everybody the Ancestral Vigor proc, so it gives them 10% more health, which is really good. But you know, it's a little bit finicky in the way that it works, and it's tied to your Healing Rain. So like, if you drop Healing Rain and then nobody actually needs to get healed by your Downpour, then you just kind of wasted that talent. So there's a case to be made here for like being careful when you cast Healing Rain and trying to game it so that a lot of people get healed. I think this is really good in raid, and it's not as good in Mythic Plus. However, I did have a decent amount of healing come out of this thing. Now, it overhealed quite a bit, but I think for Totemic, it's not as good. I think for Farseer, it's better because for Farseer, you get to cast your own Healing Rain every 10 seconds. With Totemic, you have to cast Surging Totem, and then you just have to wait for your next, Healing Rain to come back, your next Surging Totem to come back. You don't get additional procs of Downpour every time your Surging Totem refreshes Healing Rain. It doesn't work that way. But it does, it is more effective, which is really, really good. So if, for example, oh, that's not it. That's the West Wing. We have it over here. For example, if you look at the notes here, when you cast with this new talent, that's Elemental. So the new talent here, it says that Downpour is twice as effective for Totemic Resto Shamans. That's because for Farseer, you could cast Healing Rain like 3 times in the same duration, almost 3 times. for every 1 time that a surging totem goes off. So they're basically making it so that your surging totem downpour is a lot more effective. But if you're playing Farseer, I think it's way, way better, in my opinion. So now, one cool thing with this that you can do for Farseer is you can put this over here, and then if the fight ends up moving over here, you can quickly do this and then press downpour. It's not going to happen, but this is something you could do. You can min-max this. You could reposition your totem and get the downpour proc. Here's my gripe with downpour. It only lasts for 6 seconds. It needs to last for like 10 seconds at least. Sometimes I don't need to proc it right away in that 6-second window. It needs to last for like 10 or 12 seconds, please, Blizzard, so that I have time to actually get value out of the downpour and wait for more allies to take damage before I detonate it. So I really kind of wish that they would do that. But either way, it's a very, very powerful heal, and I like the design of it. I just think it needs a little bit of tweaking. High Tide's back. It's the same as it was. Wave Speaker's Blessing is here. It's a 2-point talent now, and it increases the duration of Riptide. We don't know what the final numbers are going to be on that. And then Ancestral Awakening is here. This has a new baseline chance of happening. It has a 20% chance to proc an Ancestor whenever you heal with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, or Riptide. Then if you crit, it goes up to a 40% chance for that to happen. So this is a very good talent, in my opinion, now. And I haven't tried it yet. But I will tonight on stream. Earthen Wall and Ancestor Protector Totem are here. They're not changed at all. Nothing has changed about those at all. They moved Ancestral Reach and Flow of the Tides over here. It used to be over here. Your Earth and Harmony got changed a little bit. It is a 5% damage reduction instead of a 6% damage reduction, but it's only a 1-point talent now. So I would say that's an overall buff. And then it increases the healing that a target takes by 150% as their health goes lower. So your Earth Shield healing will get much, much better as the target gets lower, which is very typical for tanks, which is who you put this on. So that's really good. There's the reactive warding I talked about earlier. Earth Living, improved Earth Living is a 1-point talent now, as is Tidebringer and Deluge. Those are the 1-point talents now. And then Earth Living has a different effect now with improved. It says Earth Living receives 150% additional benefit from your mastery. So again, as allies get lower, your Earth Living weapon is going to kick in and do a lot more healing to them, which is really, really big. And then we still have Wellspring and Deeply Rooted. I'm not sure if Wellspring is really that good. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't tried it out yet either. Those are all the changes that have come for the tree, okay? Healing Rain and Acid Rain, the amount of targets that Healing Rain hits is reduced to 5 instead of 6, but you can still bump this up if you take Unleash Life, and then you can have 7 targets instead of 5, but it's not the end of the world. That's it for the spec tree. The class tree has a bunch of changes as well that I covered in another video, so that's that. I'm just going to show you a little bit of footage here. I actually want to show you, let's look at the final section here. Handboker, thanks for the follow, buddy. Oh, that's really loud. I'm sorry. So in this section of the dungeon for Mist, they do a lot of damage to you, and it's potentially very dangerous for healers. I think that I did Totemic on this one, and then I did another dungeon as Farseer. Let me tell you, they're both fine. They're both totally fine. There's a lot of extra healing you can get. Oh, I just said that. Yep. I do love with Totemic that your Spirit Link Totem and your Surging Totem, they have really big radiuses, which is awesome. And there's the Sprouting Spirits there, by the way. I just dropped Spirit Link Totem right there. There's the new Sprouting Spirits that healed everybody. It did 2 million healing. And then it also kept redistributing health. So very strong. I think it's going to be a huge talent for Resto Shaman. My reactive warding actually did a lot of healing there as well. So that was where my tank's Earth Shield was getting down to like 1 stack, and I refreshed my Earth Shield, and it gave him a huge amount of healing there, which is actually kind of cool. So yeah, so very, very good. There's some really cool little nuances here. What do I think overall about Resto Shaman? It's in a really good spot. I don't think this really changes a lot of what you're doing as a Resto Shaman. Let me be really clear about that. I think that the gameplay loop as a Resto Shaman is pretty similar to what it always was. There's a couple little quirky things now, like refreshing your Earth Shield, as I said, heals the tank or heals you in a big way. That's going to be very good for Farseer because you can get You can get 12 stacks of your Earth Shield instead of 9, so a little bit of extra healing there as well. But that's a really interesting gameplay loop that's kind of happened. Your Spirit Link is just straight up stronger. You might potentially get more cooldown reduction on your totems with Water Mastery or the Totem Mastery there, where you're getting 3 seconds off the cooldowns instead of 0.5 seconds. But I don't really know if that's going to have a massive impact on your gameplay, because it's a chance now instead of a guaranteed proc. But the core gameplay loop of what you're doing, if you're playing Healing Stream Totem, you're just putting those down. If you're playing Cloudburst Totem, you're playing the same way that you always have. Nothing's really changed there at all. There is this new Downpour, which is really cool. I like this gameplay loop. It's a little bit of a mini game where you're putting that healing rain down, and then you're hoping that there's enough allies inside of it to get a really big downpour. I think it's very good in Raid, a little bit harder to pull off in Mythic Plus, but I enjoyed trying it because I don't mind having a little gameplay loop that works like that. But otherwise, guys, nothing has really changed. You're just stronger than you were before. You have a lot of 1-point talent nodes that used to be, or 2-point nodes that used to be, that are now 1-point nodes. You've got lots of really good cooldowns that are going to do lots of healing for you. With your healing Tide Totem, your Spirit Link is better, as I said before. Your Ascendance is really strong. You can have a 2-minute Ascendance if you want it, or a really giga-juiced Ascendance for whenever you proc it. You still have Ancestral Guidance, and you still have the Deeply Rooted proc. So it's all kind of the same. It's just better than it was. I would say for sure you have been buffed as a Resto Shaman. Yes, you did lose some damage because you lost Stormkeeper in the spec tree. Now, does that mean your damage overall is going to be terrible? Not in my experience, no. I found with Farseer and with Totemic, my damage has been just fine, guys. I'm doing 142k overall in this dungeon. I think it settles around 140k. Like, that's really good damage, and you can grab a trinket or something probably that's going to give you even more damage. As you get more stats, your damage is going to go up. Really, there's no problem with damage at all, just because we lost Stormkeeper. I'm not worried about it in any way at all. So in a nutshell, that's what Resto Shaman is looking like. Let me just look at some overall numbers for you. In the dungeon that I just ran, this was a +5 mists. In the footage I just showed you was a +4, but I also did a +5 mists. This was with my ancestors, and you can see, all my healing here is really, really good. Nothing has really changed. Healing Surge has some potential big healing now with the couple talents that are related to it, but I'm not really sure that you're going to be doing that because it costs a lot of mana compared to Healing Wave and a lot of other spells, right? So yeah, it's looking good. I think Resto Shaman looks really good. The biggest thing probably that's happened to Resto Shaman is the fact that you have a raid buff now. It's not working right now in the game, but you do have Sky Fury Totem, and it's going to give everybody mastery and the Wind Fury effect. So now I think you're much, much, much more attractive in a raid. For example, the Spirit Link buff is really good for a raid scenario. I think Healing Tide is really good in a raid. It's obviously nerfed a little bit in a raid, but it's still very, very strong. And then having a raid buff that you can bring, I think that Resto Shaman is in a really good place now to be brought to raid teams. And I really suspect that the bigger, world first teams like Liquid or something are going to start bringing a Resto Shaman because of some of these changes. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm very happy with Resto Shaman. This is probably going to end up being my main healer, if not Holy Paladin. They're kind of fighting for first place right now for me. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Love y'all. I'll see you in the next one.